Welcome to my channel, Graceful Art Designs. Today I'm going to be painting something based on an acrylic pour that I did a while ago and which should have been posted by the time I post this one. And that is this painting of birds in a tree. And what I loved about this painting was the way the green came out, the emerald green. Although the tube said permanent green light, but to me it looks emerald green. And then the birds, which I poured out each bird separately. And then the shimmer of the gold and the pearlescent gold that I swiped with. But I also liked the way the tree came out and the branches. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tree, and I'm using emerald green, so hopefully it will come out like that, because I will be painting straight onto a white canvas. And then I'll just do 3 birds, and I'm not sure if I'll do different colors or just they'll all be blue. I'll see how I feel as I paint. As in the other painting, I'm going to be painting the tree trunk sort of slightly off center and going all the way to the top. Well, it's not a tree trunk, it's not a whole tree, it's just a branch of a tree. And so I'm using the leftover colors that I had from another painting, just a mixture of green and red, and no, it wasn't green, it was red and brown, red and blue and pink, yellow. And that's just the basis. And then I will switch over to a mixture of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. And this is the emerald green I was telling you about. I don't think it's quite the same, but it's the color I'm going to use. So I don't think I have enough to get this all the way to the top. And that branch was slightly skew, as branches are. Is perfect in nature. It doesn't have to be. Certainly the trees I see when I go walking, they are all shapes and sizes imaginable. So sometimes I paint the oil painting first, and from that I get ideas for an acrylic pour, and sometimes it's the other way around, as in this case. I really like this acrylic pour and I decided I wanted to do it in oil. So that was the effect of the leftover colors, and now I've mixed the umber and the ultramarine together, and in fact there was too much blue, so I mixed in the orange and the red, and let's see what comes out. And I'm not going to do too much because I want to first do the birds before I start adding in the leaves. So this is just not even the final layer of the tree, it's just to have things in place. That's my tree branch, and I've decided I'm going to put one bluebird in there and one up there. So I'm going to just sketch it in using the ultramarine blue, and just can't see, there's too much paint on there. So as I said, I'm sketching it on with the ultramarine blue, but it will be a much lighter blue in the end, and I'm using a flat brush, because it's a bit of a long flat brush, but even so, flat brushes are always easier to sketch something on with than a filbert brush. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'll decide how and where I want the colors to go. Just to get the outline in. And the paint, it's a white background, but the paint has had 3 days to dry, I think, so it's quite dry. And paint dries quickly here, even though it's winter and it's pretty cold. So you can use either, like I'm doing, a painting that you've done before, or just sketch from your memory, or use a diagram. Often I use anatomical diagrams of animals that I want to paint, because I want to make sure that that specific animal has all the elements of its anatomy that it should have. As animals, birds do vary in the length of their tails, the type of their wings, whether they have a little tuft of feathers on their heads, all those kind of things do make a difference to the ultimate appearance of the bird. Those are my outlines for the bluebirds. And bluebirds do have a variety of colors there. Their top feathers are mostly blue, although different shades of blue, it seems they look kind of a combination of ultramarine and cobalt blue. I guess it depends on the light of the photograph that was taken in, I don't know. And then underneath they have sometimes a mixture of sort of burnt sienna and white, and around the head as well. And the tail feathers mostly seem blue. Anyway, so what happened here is I wanted to fit the bird in facing that way, and there was tree trunk and branch over there. So I wiped it away with a piece of paper towel, which you can do once your base is dry. Even though it's oil, it wipes away quite satisfactorily. I mean, I'm going to add in leaves and things, so that's going to cover that. I'm just deciding whether I should add maybe another bird there. But I don't want it to be as full of birds as that painting was. I just want the two birds to stand out. I would have actually liked them on a branch next to each other, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so I've switched over to a smaller brush. Because that big brush was not giving me the results I wanted. So I'm going to just use this small angled brush, which is really nice for doing the fine details like the beaks and the eyes. And I'm going to add in some more thin, darker branches up here. And while I'm at it, I'll change the claws and the legs to a brown. Those are my bluebirds outlined basically in the ultramarine blue. And now I'm going to add a little bit of orange around the face. And it's got a bit of other colours mixed in. A bit of yellow. And I'll mix it in down there. Might need another layer, probably will. It's not showing up nicely. Too many colours mixed in there. And I'll do this one down here. And then I'll add some cobalt blue into the feathers. And that one needs a bit more blue on. This one needs a bit more blue on his head. Then I'll put the leaves in, and then last of all, I'll paint the sky peeping through the leaves. Could do that first, but I want the emerald greens to be really bright green. I've continued shaping the bird by painting away from the beak in white, because I wanted the beak to be a lot more refined in that one as well. I put some white into his eye, but too much. I have to add some more brown there as well. And now I've got a mixture of the cobalt blue and white, and I'm going to spread that into his feathers. It's actually quite dark, darker than I had thought. Well, I'll just have to add highlights of white to it. And I'm using this fine angle brush. It's just definitely easier to work with when you want to do these fine details and not lose control of the brush. I mean, I could do it with any brush. I could paint with a filbert brush, and that's sometimes nice. I do use it for the feathers, depending on the size of the bird and the size of the feathers. Just as in petals, it really gives a nice sort of edge to things, but I've got this in my hand now, so I'll just stick to it. Definitely needs a bit of white in the feathers. I decided to add a third bird. I just decided that looks a little bit uneven, so it looks more interesting with a bit. Two are facing that way and one's facing that way, and he needs a lot of refinement, but I'll get there. So in the meantime, I'm first going to add some highlights of feathers to these birds where the feathers are too dark. And I do like this blue, but I just think I prefer that. But they come in a variety of different shades, so some of them look quite sapphire blue to me. And so I could just leave them as they are. few more highlights. This is how the birds look at the moment. They're coming along. I added some white highlights to these feathers and some dark blue to the top bird. And I added little touches of yellow just here and there that were left on my brush just to see the effect. It will add to the background, but I really was just cleaning my brush on the canvas. And now I'm going to start painting in the emerald green leaves, which I hope will look emerald green. I just can't get my brush clean. But I'm still going to add more feathers to the birds because I need to use my little round brush for that. And I didn't have it with me or nearby at the time. But also I do want the colours to dry a bit before I add the last layer of feathers. Anyway, so now this is the emerald green and I'm using the filbert brush and hoping to get something similar to those leaves there. Whether I will or not remains to be seen. But I mean, essentially I'm just laying the brush flat and dragging it out like that. And then I will need to make, it didn't come out exactly the right shape, but so just a little. Okay, so that's more or less. So I'll carry on doing that off camera because it's really hard to do it with the camera in my hand.